Hey everybody, Dr. Meri Crouley for Now is the Time. I can't believe we're already in September. It's a September to remember. And we are going to have Larry Ballard on the show today. And some of you watching maybe think things aren't happening fast enough. Well, on today's program, we're going to go into some significant signs that have been happening over time that is going to bring us into a line. And you're going to see that we're going to see the greatest show in history ready to be taken down. And God is going to turn your frown upside down into a smile because that's the way God's style is. See, he did a rhyme at the beginning. But today's program is sponsored by the Root brands, in particular, Clean Slate and the Trinity Pack. Let's roll that commercial.
Hi, my name is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I am a scientist, but before I was a scientist, I was actually a psychologist. I learned a lot about neurotransmission, and then when I became a scientist, I started noticing and researching how people got sad, how people became angry, how they were stressed, how they were anxious. Heavy metals in our environment, environmental stressors, as well as parasites, as well as fungus, all of these things add up to a world and environment that is toxic. You know, when you have heavy metals and nuclear waste in the land, air, and water, it doesn't even leave the stratosphere. In fact, a mother passes these on to her child in the stomach. So we have compounded this over time. That was one of the reasons that I created the Trinity, which was Clean Slate, to really eradicate things out of the body, to help restore nutrients into the body, and Zero In. Zero In was really one of my gifts as a psychologist and a scientist. There were certain ingredients like turmeric, curcumin, aloe vera. There were certain things like L-theanine, L-arginine that could really help people. There are a lot of ingredients and I've worked with all of them. But I finally was able to work on a formula that I really think is the best that's out there. It's something that really helps the body because it supports the neurotransmission through natural ingredients. I wanted solutions for all the people that I had seen as a psychologist that had issues. Zero In was definitely my answer to that. I personally take one in the morning, and it's an adaptogenic, so it really adapts to different people, like personalized medicine. I hope you try it. It's something that goes along with the Trinity, or it's something you can take alone, but it is something that can help in numerous areas of your life.
And if you go to therootbrands.com/, my promo code is Now is the Time. This is an affiliate program that if you have to sign up for your own affiliate, it's free, but then you can shop, and anything, that you shop, if you share it with others, you get 15% discount. And if you sign up for Root Prime, it's kind of like Amazon Prime. After the first month, you'll get free shipping. So I started with the Trinity Pack, which is actually Clean Slate, which is a zeolite formulation that pulls out the bad graphene oxide and things out of your body, but then puts in the trace minerals that you need. And then you've got Restore, which helps the gut, and then which is Zero In, which helps your dopamine levels in your brain. So I started with the Trinity Pack. Now it's over $200, not inexpensive. But then I sign up for Prime and I get the Clean Slate minimally every month. And you get free shipping. And every 4 months, you get a coupon for $50 or $100, depending on what you buy. So you can put that toward products. So it's really a good program. I interviewed Dr. Rahm like 3 years ago. And it's one of the best things that I've seen to clean your blood, just like we will clean, brush our teeth every day. We really need to clean our blood every day. So I'm giving you that little hint because, they're trying to poison the air, the food, everything. And so we really need to make sure that our blood is clean because that's what the Bible says. The life is in the blood. So go to the rootbrands.com/now is the time. Sign up for your free affiliate. Then when you shop, I ordered the Trinity Pack, but minimally you just get Clean Slate. And if you sign up for Root Prime, you get free shipping after the second month, just like Amazon Prime. So you can change it at any time. You can cancel anytime, but it's a really great product, and I take it daily. So anyway, Larry, it's good to have you back. Labor Day, just can't believe that we're now into September.
Yeah, we are. The years going by. Before we bring up the slides, I want to comment on something you said when you first came on the air. People are nervous that this is dragging on and on and on. It's been going on 5 years now. So I just want to remind your followers. I know that most of your people follow Kim Clement. He's given us a rough timeline, and we're seeing it unfold right now before our eyes. We're seeing whistleblowers come out. So he said we would have a spring that was chaotic, and we'd have a fall. We'd have a spring that was chaotic. We'd have a July to remember. And then what we would have after that, we would have the fall, and we'd have falls in the fall. So what's happening? All the whistleblowers are leading to the falls of all the corrupt people who've taken us over. And then what does he say? Then we'd have a Christmas to remember, because we'd be celebrating. So what he's telling us is we're going to get the deluge of all of the corruption coming out, one whistleblower at a time, and then we're going to get the financial reset by the Christmas time, and everything will start to change, and it'll still take some time. The one thing I want to point out, though, is that the global elite are losing, and that makes them more dangerous than they've ever been. So we need to be prepared for who knows what. That's why Trump has got military in 19 or 17 different states right now. He's prepared. He knows what's coming. So anyway, with that, unless you got
and I
any other
wanted to
comments.
say one thing. Larry Wood came to my 6th Open the Heavens. He made actually there was a prophecy about Kim Clement that said the fall, like it was going to be a rough time, but that 11/1, there was going to be a significant shift. So let's put up the flyer on 11/1 in San Francisco. It's going to be my 7th Open the Heavens. And this is going to be Open the Heavens, Keys to the Golden Gate. And what God has told me to do is to go into different states. In 2023, we were first in Mount Rushmore, then we went to Chicago, Florida, San Diego, Boise, Idaho, then Orange County, California. Now the 7th one is in San Francisco. And I know it's interesting, but we're going to be at the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge. There is a church that's been meeting there for 7 years. I know all the things about the Masonic Lodge, so that's all I'm going to say. But let me tell you, we're going to put a stake in the ground. Something is going to shift in the atmosphere. And I believe the 7th one, we're going to see the Golden Gates open in the city of St. Francis. We've got some very anointed prophetic voices, including Lou Engle. We've got Cheon, who actually is running for governor. Then Pastor Dave Bryant was the showdown with Anton LaVey in 1997, where Anton LaVey died on Halloween. And then Chuck Pierce hasn't confirmed yet, but he's a very well-known prophetic voice out of Texas. And he's talked a lot about California. So it's a free event. You can register for free by going to mericrouley.com or click on the link below. But we're also going to have a banquet luncheon from 12 to 2, which if you get your VIP, which the link will be below, it's normally $197. But if you get your VIP before October 15th, it'll be 10% discount, $177, which will include special seating and underground parking. It will include also the banquet luncheon and meet and greet with the speakers. So there's only going to be 120 VIP. We've already sold, a certain amount. So you're going to want to get your VIP sooner than later. There's 750 seats in the venue. It's a beautiful venue. We're going to show my film Freedom Cry at 2:00 in the afternoon about sex trafficking. We've got some incredible speakers in the area as well. So please, I felt because of the Kim Clement word, that's why I felt it led to bring it up initially, because Larry Wood actually talked about the 11/1. And when he heard that, he goes, that's Kim Clement said there's going to be an 11/1 breakthrough. So I believe this is one of the things. So mericrouley.com, register for free or get your VIP for $177 if you get it before October 15th. Okay, thank you. You can take that down. So Larry, so we're seeing a lot of signs. Why don't you let's just go into the beginning of your presentation.
Okay. So bring up the first slide if you would. And here's what I do. Most everybody else out there follows the news cycle. And what they do is they want to jump on it as quick as they can, be the first one out there. I never do that. Ever do I do that. I wait because I always see that there are things that are emerging and the picture is always bigger than what they make you think it is. So what this is, I've done shows in the last couple of weeks on the individual happenings as the whistleblowers come out, but this is kind of like a compilation. This will show you that it's way bigger, way deeper than you think, because we can go back 100 years disclosing all the things that have been happening now, because now it's coming out. So that's what this is. This is going to combine about a half a dozen different things that the whistleblowers are beginning to talk about, so that we can see we've really got momentum leading into the fall, and this whole thing is going to turn around. And what it's really going to drive it is we're going to find out absolutely unequivocally that there was mingling in the 2016 election, and the 2020 election was stolen. That elections have been stolen from 72 nations around the world, and we haven't had an honest election in over 100 years. So we're going to expose all of that, as well as key players that are involved in all of those attempts to make America submit to a coup. So with that, we can go to the next slide and we can start to dig deep in. So this next slide shows us there's a core. God always tells me that I'm going to give you the big picture and let you tell people the things so they can see it from the 60,000 foot view. So for us to have sovereignty, to have freedom, that's for America or any other nation of the world, you have to have election integrity. We haven't had it for over 100 years. You have to have sovereign borders. We're fighting over that right now. You have to have a sovereign currency. That's what Nasara is all about. That's coming. That's part of what the whistleblowers are on. And we have to have manufacturing and trade that's actually profitable and not intentionally losing. That's what Trump's tariff deals are about. And we have to have freedom of speech, which we're slowly, gradually getting. I've got my own show now. It's on what? YouTube. I haven't been able to do that for 2 years. So little by little, these 5 things are being addressed. And what we're going to start with here when we get into the real details is the Hillary and Obama story about what they did to try to steal the 2016 election, and then Obama's involvement in the 2020 election. So with that, we can get into the details of exactly what's going on. Comments before we go on, Mary?
No, but I mean, I know that I've been taken off YouTube many times. I'm also going back on YouTube, but you still have to be careful. I did get a strike again, so you do still have to be careful on YouTube. And
well,
Rumble,
I don't is what I'm going to say.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just telling you. So keep going.
All right. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at basically the outline for Trump's plan, and we're looking at for what's been doing. So when we talk about what happened in 2016, the truth is that Hillary Clinton was covering her own whatever with what she did when she concocted. Nope, stay on that slide. Go back. Okay, she was covering her behind when she basically concocted the Russiagate story. Why did she do it? Because she had 32,000 emails, and that scandal was being exposed, and she had to get some coverage. Don't look here, look there. Look at Donald Trump. Look at what he's doing. He's colluding with Russia. Well, that wasn't the truth. Now what's coming out is that was a lie. What's coming out is that the Russians, according to Gabbard, had no intention of Russia had no intention of mingling in this election. They'd have the capability or the desire to throw that election. If the truth be known, which is now coming out, what they were going to do is sit back and do nothing and wait until the election was over, because they were absolutely certain, like everybody else was, that it was rigged and that Hillary was going to be the next president. And they wanted her, not Donald Trump. Why? Because she had so many scandals. She's starting all the way back in Arkansas when her husband was governor, with the Whitewater scandal, the Benghazi, the 32,000 emails. So they thought she'd be easy. And she had some health issues that really made it questionable whether she could finish out a term and not be kind of in the situation that Biden was in. So they wanted her in because they could blackmail her and puppet her. And Trump was new in politics. Yes, he had some scandals related to his personal life, but there wasn't really anything that they could use to leverage him. So we're going to find out that was a lie. And the people that were really trying to take this election, right on that screen, it was China. And it was the global financial elite, people right here in the United States of America, and the people that were spending the money to orchestrate it all were the Chinese. and they were influencing and paying our news media to put forward the lies that we got out of Hillary and out of Obama. So basically, this is all coming down now. Finally, we're going to find out the truth about both the 2016 election and the 2020 election, as well as a whole lot more. Comments before we go on, Meri?
Well, and also I've interviewed Patrick Byrne in his book, Danger Close. I mean, he talks about how, he set up Hillary, with a bribe under the CIA, and then they wanted to be able to control her. They never thought that President Trump would win, in 2016. And so that's why they had to come against him with everything they could, with the Russia collusion, with this, with that, whatever. And so, Juan said that to me too, 107. So keep going.
Yeah, she took a $16 million bribe. This slide, it looks busy, but this kind of gives you the big picture as we go into the detail. So Trump's been fighting voter fraud. So 2016, he won because they thought that he was a joke. They thought he was just a billionaire playboy and that they underestimated the number of votes he would get. And so he snuck in under the radar. But in 2020, it was a different story. They were prepared. They knew how popular he was. They knew how successful his first term was. Obama had said to him, "What are you going to do? Wave a magic wand and fix the economy?" And he said, "Yeah." And he did. 10,000. The stock market was 10,000 when he went in. It was 30,000 before he left. So what we're seeing is he's making efforts to drain the swamp, making efforts to clean up the voter fraud and to take us onto a system that's based on what? Quantum computing, that's on blockchain that can't be controlled and manipulated. We're finding out why he's doing, down at the bottom left of that screen, why he's doing what he's doing around all the world with the tariffs. And we're finding out who our enemies are. And one of the things I want to point out, it's not just China, it's not just Russia, it's also, when we look at the trade abuses that we suffered, it's also the entity that we consider to be our greatest ally. It's also the EU. They treated us badly in tariffs, as did China or any of the other nations. And we look over to the other side and we see that any nation that doesn't have a sovereign border isn't sovereign at all. And look at what we're doing. And so he's been facing what? Unbelievable opposition to close that border and to basically deport those that have come in with ill intent. And what we really find out is his policy with regarding to our hemisphere, Mexico, Latin America, and South America, is huge. It's bigger than people even begin to imagine. It's funded largely by China, but basically what's he done? He's declared that all the cartels in Mexico, Latin America, and South America are what? Terrorist organizations. And I'm telling you, things are heating up. He's looking like he's going to go in and take some kind of military action against Mexico, against their cartels, specifically targeted, not an invasion. And he's down with Maduro for two very important reasons. Not only does the United States not recognize him as being rightfully elected, but he's also contentions that he is actually the head of the cartels in that region of the country. And the big release that's coming out day after day is the involvement of Venezuela in stealing the election, when they basically programmed Smartmatic computers and used them in the 2016 election and used them with 71 other nations. So the whole world has been suffering the same kind of things that we're suffering. So that's the big picture of what's going on. As we go deeper, we'll go into the details of what the whistleblowers are telling us now. But look at that. We're under attack from the swamp, from voter fraud, from cartels, from elected leaders in China and Mexico and Venezuela, and from our trade partners around the world. And
Larry, I've known a lot of people that used to live in Venezuela. And many of you might not know this, some of you probably do, but Venezuela was a very blessed country. I mean, the oil, everything was great. And then they brought in their deep state puppet people that run it, and everything went down. It's like a third world country now. But I'm telling you, it really, at one time, it was a beautiful place to live. And that's what they're trying to do to America. That's what they're trying to do. That's why people think, why would they want to do this? well, it doesn't make sense in the natural, but it does if you look at it. They want to control the world. Like, of course, the World Economic Forum says you'll own nothing and be happy. So that's why we have to rise up. And the number one thing we have to do is educate people, because so many people don't think that there's people like this, just like with the sex trafficking, Larry. People just don't think, oh, no, people wouldn't do that to a child. And like, yes, they would. I mean, yes, they do. So anyway, go
So
on.
what's happening to kind of put it in a big picture? I'm not going to address that slide right now, so you can take it down if you want. So basically what we've got is the thing that we've had happening forever. We've got hegemony, Western hegemony occurring, where the first world countries, that's Europe and that's Asia and that's the United States, have endeavored to keep the third world nations, that's Africa, that's all the southern hemisphere, poor, and to pit us against one another and to cause wars. And all of that is happening. So here's what's happening. As we move into Nasara, we are going to have a second Bretton Woods. And for those that don't know, Bretton Woods was something that was convened after World War II, where they said we have absolute chaos. There's no manufacturing stability, no currency stability. We want America to be the world's reserve currency just something that we abused and now is being taken away from us. But we're going to have to recalibrate all of the currency's values around the world. And so all of this chaos has to be basically addressed before we can do that. And that's what's going on down in Venezuela and in South America. We have to get rid of the cartels. And if you look over to the other hemisphere, you look at Vietnam and you look at Iraq, their currencies are ready to revalue. They've met all the criteria that need to be met so that they can be revalued. But down in Venezuela and in Brazil and in other places in the Southern Hemisphere, there's still a lot of people that have to be taken out of power before we can have this financial reset. So if this happens in the fall, like we think, it means we're going to see Maduro fall before this financial reset can happen. So let's go to the next slide and we'll kind of dig down into Hillary and what she has done. So basically, Hillary went in and she was exposed by Tulsi Gabbard, saying that she was just covering herself because there were 32,000 emails, and everything in Russiagate, it's been disclosed, was concocted and was paid for. And it was a deep state effort on the part of the United States and on the part of China. So that's what's been coming out recently. That link down below, if you want to click on that when the show is over, and you'll see that you can go to 4 minutes and 27 seconds, and there's just a short clip there that'll tell you her role in terms of Russiagate in detail. And let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see that neither Obama nor Hillary or anybody does things on their own. So here's what the next step was in this collusion. Once the world was astounded because Donald Trump got elected, Obama had to get involved. And the narrative coming out of these are all our deep state operatives under the Obama administration that are all basically part of the intelligence network. He called them in and he said, oh my God, we cannot have Donald Trump in. We have to change the narrative. The narrative up until that point in time was that Russia had no intention of involving themselves in that election in order to throw it to Donald Trump. But the very next day after he was elected, he called all of these people in who are now going to be exposed. And he said, we've got to change the narrative. It's not, did Russia collude? It is, how did Russia include, I got tongue-tied. Collude is the word I wanted, sorry, in order to bring Donald Trump in. So the whole narrative changed. So there's two of the scandals that basically have affected us since 2016 all the way till now. And if we go on down to the next slide, but before I do that, why don't I stop and give you an opportunity to chime in again?
No, it's just that we've been watching this show. It is a show, and people that are watching, you might think it's not happening fast enough, but we really have to continue to, it's like drip, 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 drip. And also, as you guys know, that we have to pray. We're dealing with a spiritual, there's spiritual demonic forces we're dealing with. And the number one thing that I believe that I'm called to do is get the people to pray and focus and take action. So continue on, Larry.
Let's go to the next slide. And This is another truth that's coming out. So they used the January 6th event they called the insurrection to blame it on Trump, but now we're getting the facts. We're finding out that, yes, in fact, he stood at a podium and he said to the people, march to the White House and protest peacefully. We're finding out that he went to the people in Washington and said, I'm concerned about, security. I'd like to bring in the National Guard. And they said, no. We're finding out that Nancy Pelosi was the one who orchestrated this. It's all coming out. And just as there were people going in that they were calling insurrectionists, there were also white hats going in and collecting computers. And we're about to find out what's on those computers. And what we're hearing is that it is full disclosure of what those 4 people you see on the screen did, and how in particular Nancy Pelosi is the one that orchestrated the insurrection that they so vehemently charged Trump with. It's all coming out. Whatever they do, they try to play like it's us doing it, like it's Trump doing it. But one by one, drip, 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 all the truth is coming out, and all the conspirators, the rats behind the scenes, are basically being exposed. And Tulsi Gabbard is saying there's not going to be any exceptions. Hillary, Obama, Nancy, the whole group are all going to be brought up on charges and going to be tried, and many of them will be tried for treason. So
Larry,
this is
where is Nancy Pelosi? I mean, where has she been lately? She's not really been in the news, or what's she been doing? Do you know?
I don't like to get into conspiracy theory, but she's got some health issues and she's an alcoholic. But there's a place called Gitmo, and a lot of people think that many people have already been tried. And just like all this information, they've had all this stuff on the election since 2016. It's just now coming out because we're in a war. And what does Sun Tzu say? Sun Tzu says you have to know your enemy as well as you know yourself, and you have to pick your timing. Everything is strategic. And so basically, I think we're going to get all of these disclosures, drip, 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 open our eyes up so the American people can really see what's been going on. And then when we do the EBS, which I think will come in the fall, probably in October, late October, we're going to find out that maybe even Nancy's been arrested, and Schumer's been arrested, and Hillary's been arrested, and Obama's been arrested. You haven't seen much of him either. And even when you see somebody these days, you can't tell if you're looking at AI or what you're looking at. So I believe that there's
or if they're wearing a mask,
Yeah. So, they just, it's like you're in a war. Do you just send a few shells out, or do you wait till that perfect moment when you've got that enemy in the kill box, and if you execute at that point, you're going to win? We're moving into the kill box. That's why they're releasing everything to wake us up. So when they do announce that these people have been arrested, we don't have too much civil unrest. But even then, Trump's preparing. That's why he sent all these National Guards around to all these cities. And my son's in logistics. All he's doing is just setting up a logistic foothold. And then he's got people that are ready to go to deploy to any hotspot that rises instantaneously, because he's logistically set up everything he needs in order to have a fast response team. So basically, look to the fall, and it's going to get interesting. As we arrest these people, as what they've done comes out, then we're going to have some chaos, but Trump is already preparing to quiet it when it occurs. So we can go to the next slide unless you've got questions or comments.
No, go ahead.
All right, so this is another one. See, it's just one thing after another coming up. This is probably even bigger than Russiagate. This is the Act Blue. So here's what was going on. Let me break it down for you. So the Democrats were collecting untold amounts of money, and they were saying, oh, look at our loyal people in our base. And what we found out was that they were doing something that's done sometimes in the banking community. If you just do something real small, people don't see it. But if you extort a big amount of money, they catch you. So what they were doing is they were taking names, mostly of older people, and they were saying that these are our died-hard Republican supporters, and Democratic supporters, and they gave us money over and over and over again in small pieces. And they got suspicious, and they went out and found out No, they talked to a bunch of these people and said, no, I didn't donate any money to the campaign. No, I didn't donate any money. Well, that's all coming out. And then we're finding out Soros's involvement, and we're finding out that all that money that they collected wasn't used solely for the election. It was used for all kinds of activities that were funded by Soros and the Open Society in order to create chaos and in order to basically further that effort to take America into a situation where we actually suffered a total coup, and basically America was so close to basically going under completely, never to come back. If it wasn't for Donald Trump and for the White Hats and for God, we would have lost this nation already. So that's what they were doing with Act Blue, and it's huge.
Larry, that kind of goes along with, I was looking at one of my credit card statements, and all of a sudden I saw a little amount like for 1995 or something, and I thought, I don't remember, because sometimes you have different things you might purchase. You don't remember. Then there was another transaction that came through in the same month with the same amount from the same company. So I knew that it wasn't me. They can get these little amounts and start rolling them through. And you don't think, oh, that's no big deal, $19, $20. But then you look at it over time. That's what they were doing. They were collecting a lot of money from a lot of people who weren't probably looking at it really close. And over time, it added up to a lot of money.
Millions, maybe even trillions. It was huge. And so that's that's one way to steal an election, but they've got all kinds of ways, and we're going to go into some more as we go on. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll give you some disclosures that have come out about Mr. Schumer. So what's he got? Are the Democrats have any plan to make America great like Trump does? No, they don't. All they have is a plan to basically obstruct him and obstruct the Make America Great agenda, because the people who puppet them don't want America to be great. The number one target of the global financial elite is the United States of America, because they know if they can take us down once and for all, the rest of the world are setting ducks. And so they're absolutely committed to their agenda is to obstruct the agenda of Donald Trump. So here's what they've done. Schumer boasts that he has appointed 235 liberal judges to obstruct Donald Trump. So that's why he can't get anything done on the deportations. That's why he couldn't get his day in court on the election fraud. All of that's coming out. It's all being exposed. And then the Democrats have filed, listen to this, this is now in this new term, 165 lawsuits to obstruct Trump. So everything you see coming from the Democrats is to bring America down, to basically render Trump's second term in office neutered. And the truth is coming out day by day, bit by bit. And a nation that doesn't have a border and doesn't have sovereign currencies has no sovereignty at all. Trump is pushing to give us both of those things, and to not only make America great, but in reality, if you look at his whole agenda, he is in fact going to make it greater than ever. We're going to come out of this not as the sole reserve currency, but still the dominant reserve currency, and we will be wealthier than ever. He's already got $10 trillion in commitments to build new factories, and that will restore America, because they say he who controls money controls the world, but you got to figure out, where does that money come from? It comes from controlling natural resources, then controlling with that trade and selling it, and that's what creates your GDP. And our growth has been stagnant for the last 15 years. Well, when you bring in all those new factories and all that new technology with something else that he queued up, which is he in his first term, he got the reversal of the Chevron decision, which is going to give us massive amounts of new technology, which is going to create a new super industrial revolution led by the United States of America. So let's go on down, and we'll see a few more things.
Larry, the report that just came out, the inflation is down to 2%. I mean, there's just a lot of great reports that just came out in the last economic report. And so we're already seeing massive change after only less than a year in office. And we're going to see it incredible. Now, the thing we really have to pray for, people, is that they're not going to try to put some type of false flag out, just like what we even happened in Minneapolis, where I'm from, with the school shooter who happened to be, again, transgender. The last, several shooters have been these transgender, people, these children, these kids, these teenagers. And the MK, I believe they're also MK altered in some ways. So this is what we have to really pray, because they'll try to get our mind distracted. Look over here, while they're doing something like that. So this is where it's really important that we continue to pray. So go on, Larry.
When we go on, we're going to talk about those false flag restrictions. So let's go to the next slide. And these are smaller things, but they're huge. So basically, the Democrats are doing everything he can do to initiate open borders and keep those borders open. But I'll tell you, Trump just keeps pushing and pushing. So he's deployed military to the border, and now the crossings have absolutely stopped. And he's gone even a step further. He's painting the wall black because it'll get up to about 135 degrees down in that desert, and they're not going to be able to climb that wall and set up on it like they have been. And then what else is he doing? They're doing this behind the scenes, and most people don't realize this, but our elections are not stolen on the day of the election. That's just their safety valve if they get in trouble. They're doing things behind the scene constantly to make sure that we never have an honest election. So one of the things that he tried to do in his first term was to simply get one question put on the census: are you a U.S. citizen? And that is more important than you can think. So he's pushing to get a new census, because our Constitution says we have to have a census not every 10 years, but within 10 years. So he's trying to get a census done this year in 26 and include that question. And it's crucially important, because if they can send people to the blue states, to the swing states by the masses, and they can be counted even though they're not U.S. citizens, well, then they get more money, and they also can flip states because they get more representatives. And basically a state that's now got all of these non-U.S. citizens in it, bring up the number of people that are in that state, and all of a sudden you can have a state that's red that can be switched to blue, or a state that can be switched. I mean, basically they can just turn the whole election process upside down, and the Republicans will find out that we might lose who knows how many seats. And then down below, what are they doing right now? We just saw an antic, and this is coming out of Texas, where they've been doing gerrymandering all over the country. And if we can get those districts put back to where they rightfully should be, then the Republicans are going to get even more House seats. So basically, what happened in Texas, they were going to redistrict the districts, and the Democrats just decided to take a little plane flight to where Chicago, and now they were forced to come back. So this is just so you know, it's not just the Smartmatics machine stealing our votes on the day of the election. It's the paid-for media running campaigns and giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the opposition. And it's things that happen behind the scenes that most people don't even know. I bet you a lot of people out there don't even know what gerrymandering is, and they don't have any idea of what's being done with the census. So we have to be alert. So the kind of shows that Meri does, the kind of shows that I do, attempt to bring a certain degree of awareness to the people so we can understand what's going on. And then the whistleblowers that are deeply involved come out, and they give us the bam, 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 the facts of what's actually happened with the facts to substantiate it.
Well, they're trying to gerrymander in California. That's what they're trying to do here.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, they're trying to get some extra seats. They're trying to redistrict and gerrymander. Yeah, Gavin Newsom's doing it. So this is why. And then we were just at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago about this bill, AB 495. We got it suspended. That's where they could literally have anybody come into a school district just with an affidavit saying that you're like the legal guardian of this person, and take them out of the school. And we thought they suspended it, but then on Friday, right before you're going into a 3-day weekend, they push it through, and that was going on the Senate floor today. And so, when people they think are not looking, all of a sudden they try to push it through. And I mean, literally it's going to be like legal sex trafficking of children in the schools. It's unbelievable what these people are doing. And we've got to rise up and stand up and speak up. And we will not let go. That's why my event in San Francisco is so important. We've got a guy named Scott Wiener. I mean, even look at the name, Scott Wiener. The guy has just done so many horrific bills that, we've got to rise up. So continue on, Larry.
Let's go to the next slide. And we're going to find out a little more about what's really happening in Venezuela. So like Meri said, Venezuela is one of the wealthiest nations in the world. It's right up there with the top 3 in terms of oil reserves in the entire world. And at one time before this election was stolen and Maduro got in, it was a very, very affluent country. And it's going to be again. I can't tell you for sure that I know what Trump is doing, but I know he's got those ships off the shore, and I know he's working with the disclosures on Smartmatic and involving the world and understanding what Maduro has done to not only steal the election in the United States, but in 71 other nations. And as all of that truth comes out, let's look at what Trump does. When he says he's going to do something, he does it. If he's going to drop a bunker bomb, he does it. If he says he's going to take out somebody who's in a cartel, he takes them out. So I think we're going to see not boots on the ground in Venezuela. I think we're going to see surgical strikes that are going to do 2 things. It's going to stop the drug trafficking. It's going to stop the human trafficking. It's going to put financial constraints on Venezuela. And if they need to, they'll do a surgical strike, just like they did in Panama, and either go in and arrest him and take him out of the country, or just send a drone in and kill him. But Venezuela is standing in the way of the financial reset of Nasara. It has to be taken out, and we have to get rid of the power of these cartels. So that's what's happening over in Venezuela. And so basically, they just announced that they just had one of the biggest drug busts in history, but that they were able to confiscate drugs coming out of Venezuela. So at any rate, that's what's going on, and people need to understand that they were the ones who programmed Smartmatic, and basically Smartmatic has software that's very sophisticated that can flip the vote, and it was that system, orchestrated, built, and designed with China and Venezuela's aid, that took away the election in 2020. And that's coming out in detail. So let's go to the next slide. And this one is going to be right out of the history books. This is the kind of stuff that I do. People don't understand this. When I say we haven't had an honest election in 100 years, I mean it. And it started with McKinley. People probably aren't going to know who those faces are. McKinley's the first person, the top on the left, and he ran against William Jennings Bryan, and they had diametrically opposed positions. McKinley was for big business, and Bryan was against. So the 3 wealthiest men in the world, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and Rockefeller, got together and said, we've got to get McKinley elected. And they did. They used all their money, all the power, all the influence. They got him elected. And what did it do? It was a tipping point. It was an aha moment for the global financial elite. They said, if we can buy a presidency, we can buy congressmen and senators and judges and people at every level of the government and the media, and we can control all the spheres of influence. And so that's what they've done. So real quickly, I'll tell you the tell that tells you that each of these men up here were put into office by those who want to collapse the United States and want to issue in a one world government. So Wilson was involved in doing something that Meri said on Christmas Eve, when everybody was on vacation. They convened Congress and they voted in the very, very unpopular Federal Reserve bill that put us under the central banking system that has so enslaved us. And then we go to Franklin, and Franklin was approached by the global elite and said, we want America to come into the war. And what did they do? This was World War II. He had pop-ups where they sent military ships into the war zone, hoping that via some kind of an incident, he put an embargo on shipping steel and oil to Japan. And then what did he do? He saw to it, after going to 3 different generals before one would capitulate, and he brought the 7th Fleet into Pearl Harbor, where it was a setting duck for an attack from Japan. So what did he say? What came out later after the war? It was a designed plan to make sure that we looked like we were forced into the war. In other words, a false flag event, do all those things to Japan and then give them an easy target. And then we go to Johnson. And I think finally, after almost 70 years, the truth is coming out about what happened to Kennedy. And everything I've seen and done says that Johnson was complicit, along with the CIA, along with the mafia, because he was coming against the global financial elite in 3 ways. He was getting us out from under the Fed. He wasn't going to put additional boots on the ground in Vietnam, which brought the ire of the military industrial complex. and he was taking away power from the intelligence agencies. Then we go to Nixon, and Nixon didn't get to complete his assignment. He was to be the one that took us into China and opened up trade with China so that they could systematically cede power from the United States, economic power, trade power from the U.S. to China. Well, he got booted out of office because he was corrupt, and so it fell to Carter, and Carter saw to it that we had something called stagflation for his entire term in office, and basically that allowed Chinese to get their manufacturing going, to steal our patents, and to have they brought Romney in, and what Romney did is he basically initiated hostile takeovers of some very key big corporations, broke them up, making opportunities for China to come in and get a foothold in the U.S. economy. And then I think that finally the next truth is coming out, and that's what 9/11 was about. That was Bush. And what did he say? He said that this is going to be a generational war lasting 20 years or more, and it was. And it was a war that was designed, just like Vietnam, to drive America deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And then we go to Obama, the puppet, who's now from behind the scenes orchestrating his third term. And what was his whole agenda? We're finding out that his birth certificate really was forged. We're finding out that he really was a Muslim. We're finding out that he really hated America, and that he was groomed, financed, and placed in that position to bring America down by creating so much debt that we would collapse from the inside. So what did we find when he left? We found out that in his single term, he caused $10 trillion of debt to be inflicted on the United States, more debt than any of the 43 presidents who preceded him. And then we've got Biden, the brainless Biden. I won't go into detail. That's enough said. So the only person up there that wasn't puppeted by the global elite was Donald J. Trump. He's the hope, along with God, for this country. So there's the truth. 100 years of controlling us. So let's go on to the next slide. I'm trying to bring things out so that it just drives and drives and drives, and you see over and over and over again what they're doing. That was a mouthful, Meri. Before I get into this, do you want to make some comments?
No, let's keep going.
All right. So what we find out is that if you take on the military industrial complex, they come back at you. If you take on the global elite, they come back after you. If you take on the three-letter agencies, they come back after you, because they all have shared goals. They all want to collapse the United States, because the puppets who puppet them all want to have a one world demonic government. And so basically, war is the most important weapon they have. And it goes all the way back to the very founding of this nation, when we came here and we set up our government. We wanted to be independent. We wanted to not be under the British system, and particularly under the taxation, and no taxation without representation. They didn't want to be on a central bank. So we fought that war, and we won our independence, and we were not under a central bank for a short while. But what happened is that war drove us into bankruptcy, and we had to take on a central bank. And then that charter ended, and in War of 1812 came, and they forced us to take it back again. And then we went into the third central bank under Wilson, and that is the system that always they've used around the world. Create a war, create a false flag, create a war, drive a nation into debt, and force them into a central bank. And Stalin said implementation of a central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. And so when you have communism, let's look at our banking system. It invokes what's the word I want? A progressive tax structure. So real quickly, here's the way it goes. And the war is the central to this. They basically got us under the central banking system. It says, oh, but the taxes are going to be just so minimal that you won't even notice it. It's only going to be 1% initially. Well, look at where it's at now. You can pay up to 35% taxes. So what they do is all that money goes abroad. It doesn't go to here. It goes to the Europeans, and it doesn't not one penny of what's collected in federal income tax is spent on American taxpayers. But then they get to the point that every dollar that's printed creates a bond, which is a debt obligation that goes up and up and up and up and up and up till finally it has to collapse. And so that's where we're at now. We're up to, thanks to COVID, where every nation in the world has printed more money than it printed in the last 100 years and since 2019 when they released COVID. So the whole world is a financial collapse. That's why things are happening so fast. That's why things are falling apart. And it's actually a good thing, because this is the moment where Sun Tzu says, we're on death ground. Whoever wins this battle wins the whole game. And I'm happy to say it looks like we're winning. It looks like we're basically getting in control. But what we have to have is the kind of disclosures that I'm giving in this presentation, where we can see not just one scandal or two or three or four, but we can see a narcissistic attack on the United States from every vantage point you can possibly conceive of. Let's go to the next slide. And this is something that I bet not 1 in 100 people in this country have even heard of, this Operation Gladio. And it basically initiated after World War II. And the global elite said, we're going to take over the world. We're going to push now, because we're going to get what? The United Nations and the United Nations global governance organizations. And we're going to have U.S. aid, and we're going to have NATO, and we're going to have the World Bank, and we're going to have the IMF, and we're going to have the World Health Organization. So now's the time to push. All the cards are in our favor. And so what they said they're going to do, we're going to create chaos around the world. We're not just going to end this war and sit back on our laurels. We're going to create perpetual war all around the world. So they left people behind in order to put together terror cells to create constant wars, constant conflicts all around the world, so that there was no stability anywhere. That's what they did. So that takes us to events that happened following World War II. And I'm going to jump in. The next piece was 1953. One of our biggest enemies has turned out to be who? Iran. And what did they do? They basically caused a coup that took the democratically elected president of Iran out, and they put in a puppet, the Shah of Iran. What was it all about? It was about oil. It's always about oil and natural resources. There was a British firm that had an exclusive contract on oil coming out of Iran, and they were paying the Iranian people peanuts. And basically, they I'm trying to think of the man's name. I can't remember right now, but anyway, he came in and nationalized the oil, and then basically, here's what happened: the British came to the United States. Eisenhower was in, and they said, "You got to do something. We have to get control of the oil back again." And so Eisenhower was complicit in agreeing to a coup against Iran, and the people of Iran hated us, because basically once that happened, they were right back to getting virtually nothing out of their oil supplies. And so that takes us over to South America, and there have been constant coups happening all over South America. Most of the governments in South America are basically controlled by the cartels. That's true of even probably the most prominent one in South America was Brazil. It's certainly true of Venezuela. That's why Trump has to come in and has to surgically take these cartels out, so that they can have legitimate governments in Latin and South America. And then we go down to 9/11.
Well, and Larry, just interject with the Shah. If you look back in history, it seemed for a while like women didn't have to wear the burqas. It looked like they were, prosperous. It looked like they were more westernized. And then when the Shah, of course, got kicked out or whatever, that's when the mullahs came in and the radical Islam came in. That was all planned.
Yep. That was basically to control, first of all, the oil. And then it's always about the end game, which the end game is to take out every sovereign nation in the world and create a one world government. And so from there, we go on down, as I said, to South America, and then we get to 9/11. And people, there's all kinds of information out there. There was something called PMAC that was written a year before 9/11. And you know what it turned out? It had 3 objectives, all of which were achieved because of 9/11. They wanted more money for military. They got $1 trillion. They wanted regime change. What did they get? They got Iraq and Afghanistan. And they wanted to overthrow leaders who were hostile. So that's where they got Saddam Hussein. And later that took us into the Arab Spring. So basically, there's all kinds of information out there. Those towers did not come down by controlled demolition. I worked in construction, building skyscrapers when I was young, going to college, and I worked with something called thermite. That's exactly what they use. It burns at 4,500 degrees, and that's where you see all that molten metal. And then we go over the Arab Spring, and this is another scandal that the Russians had on Hillary. They knew what she did in the Arab Spring. They knew all about what she did in Benghazi. And what was the Arab Spring about? There's two things they never want to let you have unless they're controlling them. You cannot be allowed to control the money, which means you got to stay on a fiat system. You can't have a gold-backed system that basically gives sovereignty to the nations. And so basically what happened in the Arab Spring, you had two people who were basically going against the global financial elite. They had to die. And so they had to disrupt the whole of North Africa and the Middle East. They had to take, in Libya, they had to take out Gaddafi because he was bringing in an African-based gold currency, and they had to take out Saddam because he was basically not agreeing to the oil deal that he had been offered. They wanted him to be basically the second Saudi Arabia. So the goal was come in and just cleanse, just absolutely take out all the Middle East. Hillary's name is written all over that. That disclosure is coming out. We're going to see the details of Operation Gladio. Very few people understand what I've just shown you on this slide. Comments,
Well,
Mary?
Larry Gaddafi, actually the people liked him. He was actually helping Libya. He was doing a number of things for his country, and Hillary literally went in and killed him, took all the gold. How much gold do they think that was taken out of Libya? Do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea. I just know that it was very wealthy, and he wanted to basically create a Pan-African gold system. So let's go forward now. So what's happening in Africa today? Africa is finally standing up and saying we're no longer going to be controlled through Western hegemony. And so Burkina Faso and several of the nations got together, pooled their gold reserves, started refining their own gold, and now those nations have their own sovereign economic systems based on gold and other commodities. And they're also saying we're not going to be controlled by the Western hegemony anymore. They said we are in the process of forming what will, I'll use an analogy, be the United States of Africa. It's where you'll be able to cross borders, trade won't be inhibited, and basically they'll be the spitting image of America. And what else are they doing? They know that the economic system is shifting, so they just announced that they're going on digital payment systems. So basically what they tried to stop with the Arab Spring is now unstoppable with what's happening in Africa, because they suppress these people, and they came in, and under Operation Gladio, they come in and they create resistance cells all over. Go find out about the Congo. Millions of Christians have been killed in the Congo over the last several years. And basically why? Because they wanted to bring in terrorists to take over a large portion of the Congo, because it was really rich in natural resources. So we find out that France was funding rebels that were backed by Rwanda, and basically coming in and killing people and taking over portions. That was happening in country after country after country after country. So it's
Larry, I've done shows with Juan where he talked about Congo, and actually also interviewed Bree Keaton, who's a missionary that God audibly spoke to, that told her to go to the Congo to help the pygmies. And I'm telling you, Juan said, it's probably the richest nation in the world is the Congo in regards to the minerals and the different things they have. So there's a war, there's been a genocide going on, and you're not hearing that in the news, of course. So continue on.
Them and Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is all kinds of stuff, and just look at what they've done. So let's look to South Africa. At one point in time, South Africa is another nation that was very wealthy, and they basically had a lot of technology. They were probably poised to be the nation that might lead Africa. Well, they've now got a communist government in there. That's what I call it anyway. And so now they're absolutely in financial chaos. But another nation you need to find out about is Burkina Faso. And I think I need to go back to what you were saying a minute ago about Libya. So here's what was happening in Libya. The man they made sound like he was a tyrant. He built an underwater river system so he could regreen the desert.
You mean Gaddafi?
Yeah, Gaddafi. And what he also did is if you got married, you got an endowment. If you bought a car, they paid for half of it. He had one of the best systems in the world, kind of like what they do in Dubai and what they do in Saudi Arabia, a social network that basically took care of the people. I mean, they didn't have any taxes. I mean, they were happy as happy could be, but he was obstructing the goals of the global financial elite, and so he had to go. So that's my litany. That completes the litany of all the different scandals that are one by one coming out right now, all at one time, in order to lead us to the fall where we can have a new financial system implemented and where we can finally say that we have beaten the global financial elite, at least for the time being. Now, they're going to come back. They're not just going to give up, but I think that it's going to be very apparent to the American people and the people of the world what's been done to us. And so the whole goal of all of this is to wake us up so that they can implement what they need to implement, meaning the white hats, without us having civil war in this country. And I think that this disclosure over the next 60 days of all of this, culminating in the EBS and culminating in a complete financial reset, is going to happen before this year is out. I think we truly are, like Kim Clement said, we're going to be happy by Christmas time. So with that, if you just bring up that last slide about my book, I really encourage you to buy it, because what we need is what I just said. We need full disclosure. We need an army of people who are informed, because you can't have a republic if you don't have an informed group of people who understand what a republic is, which is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's not a democracy. Democracy is communism. So basically, this book will tell you what you need to do, what you need to know, so that you can understand what made America great, how we've lost it, how we get it back, and how we keep it. So if you haven't bought the book, I encourage you to do so. And if you read it, don't put it on a shelf and give it to somebody. So Meri, unless you've got comments, that takes us through quite a litany of all the things that have been done. It's I think much more powerful than just taking one little thing that they do at a time and disclosing that. When you chain them all together, you've just seen a history of 100 years of efforts to basically collapse the United States and the world and put in a communist one world government.
Yeah, well, even as the word of God says, you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. So that's why for so long we've been under, the Mockingbird media. They've literally been putting their poison out. They will put some truth, but then they'll have a lie that's woven into it. And so basically what you're not hearing is truth. You're hearing a lie in the midst of some truth. So you believe it. And so that's why people are waking up. It is literally the Great Awakening. And so, so let's put up on the screen again. Thank you, Larry. It's really awesome. Where can people get a hold of you? What is your website, Larry?
LarryBallard.com.
Yeah, let's put that up on the screen, LarryBallard.com. And you can also get your book up on the screen. It has different things about where people can hear about your new podcast and different things like that, Larry.
Yes, absolutely. And I've got my own show now, which is just called Liberty Crusade.
Yeah, well, thank you, Larry, for coming on, and thank you for watching Now Is the Time. We are at a time in history that we need to take action. Even being in the LA, Hollywood area, these things take time. And I do believe that the enemy has tried to delay the time. But it says hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. So I believe that God wants to see your dreams, your longings fulfilled. And God wants to give you, he wants to make you a success in Jeremiah 29:11. People think, well, why isn't God doing anything? Well, he told us to move. You know what I mean? We're the ones. Jesus already did it on the Calvary. Now, when Jesus left, he told the disciples, he looked at them and he said, now you have to go. Now you have to go and make disciples, not just just don't get people to know Jesus. They have to become discipled. If everybody literally, Larry, took 2 people in their lifetime and mentored them, discipled them, and helped them to become godly people, that we would change the world. But the thing is, the devil doesn't care if you go to some big crusade. In the Billy Graham crusades, they've proven only 3% of people maintain their lifestyle walking with Jesus at these big crusades. If you make it in disciples and you start mentoring them, have smaller groups, smaller home churches, that is what really changes the world, is discipleship and mentoring. So let's pull up on the screen as we close today. I usually don't like to go over an hour, but we're a little over, but that's okay. It was important what we said to see the bigger picture. No, let's go up to my not Larry's book. Let's go up to the flyer for 11/1. Yes, like May 2nd, 2020, I woke up, and you guys have heard this story. I'm just going to articulate it briefly. God said, we won't shut up till you open up, open the heavens. Told me to do 7 baptisms in 2020 before the election. We did that. 2023, he told me I needed to start going to different parts of the country. We were dealing with not what was happening on the ground, but in the air, because it says that Satan is the prince of power of the air. And so we don't go in there trying to fight demons or principalities. What we do is we go in there with a team of people, and then we just, we literally worship. We get people that have truth. They speak truth and justice. And then we come together and we literally decree and declare Psalm 24, lift up your heads, O you gates. Be lifted up, you everlasting doors. Let the King of glory come in. So we literally take back what the enemy has stolen, because he's stolen just what they did, like with Gaddafi. They went in there and stole his gold that he had built up for the people. That's what the enemy, Satan, tries to kill, steal, and destroy. But God said, I've come to give you life and to give it to you in abundance. But we have to take it back. So come to this event. We will be streaming it as well. We're not going to charge to stream. I did for a little while, and then I thought, no, God said, make it free. Don't charge. And this is a free event. You can register for free. Go to mericrouley.com or click on the link below. Let me tell you, we are going to have a VIP seating. There's only 750 seats in that auditorium. I know it's at the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge, but let me tell you, there's a reason for that, which we're not going to get into here. There has been a church that has met there for 7 years. So God is getting ready to put a stake in the heart of the enemy. We're coming together. We have Lou Engle, who's literally been used around the world, doing these events. Cheon, they just last October did an event at the mall in Washington, D.C., where 500,000 women and people were there. It was called Million Women Movement. I was there. Lou Engle was there. Jonathan Kahn, Cheon. I'm telling you, we're taking it back. Also, Pastor Dave Bryan. We've got Chuck Pierce that's probably going to be coming now. We've just heard that he's going to try to be there. We're getting a group of men and women that are going to speak forth a sound in their voice. We've got Margaret Lou Collins, who actually is one of the sponsors of this. She's got a new movie called God is Good. We're going to show my film Freedom Cry in the afternoon at 2:00. We're going to have a panel of people. There's going to be so many great things. But if you get your VIP ticket, normally it's $197, 10% off, $177 if you get it before October 15th. And we're only having 120 VIP. We could, in the banquet room that's attached, there's only so many spaces and places in there. So you have to get it early. We've already got almost 20% of VIP that have been purchased. So literally it's going to start happening quickly. So I would even pray about flying to San Francisco, being there for this historic event, because San Francisco, you can see a lot of the corruption that's happened over it was the California gold rush, the 49. There's a lot of things about San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury, the Summer of Love, the whole LGBT ideology, a lot of that was embraced there. And listen, we love LGBT people, but God had told, including Kim Clement and many people that have said that God is going to use the LGBT community, where he's going to show them his heart. He's going to run to them as a father, that they're going to come away from certain lifestyles and they're going to love God, be true, and they're going to literally come into a place and a position knowing who they are as a son and a daughter of the Lord. So anyway, it's going to be exciting. Please share it with as many people as you can. It's Saturday, 11/1. It's actually All Saints Day, the day after. Well, I don't even like to call October 31st Halloween. It literally was Reformation Day when Martin Luther, the great, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, who literally tacked the 95 Theses on the door of the chapel in Wittenberg in 1517, and it started the Great Reformation. That's why I believe Satan tried to hijack that day and call it Halloween, but we're taking it back. We're taking back the kingdom for the Lord. And it said, let God arise and his enemies be scattered. So go to mericrouley.com, register for free, get your VIP ticket. Like I said, there's only 120 VIP tickets. You'll not only get the banquet, you get to meet and greet with the speakers, as well as VIP seating and parking, which is below the structure. So, hey, it's I think a big deal. So anyway, so you can take that off the screen. So listen, thank you, Larry, for coming on today. Thank you, everyone, for coming on today and watching. Now is the time. This is a September to remember. So Larry likes it when the Lord rhymes. So last time I did a show with him, he goes, "You didn't rhyme." So, okay, well, it's not a crime not to rhyme, but the Lord said it's a new design. And so God said, I'm bringing you into a new season of life, that I, says the Lord, will come back for a spotless wife. And God said, and I'm going to free the world of the strife, and I'm going to bring my people in for a season to win. And it's also going to be double portion, which will be called twin. It'll be double for your trouble, says God, and I'm going to clean up the mess. And this will be a season that I will now bless. So God says, whose report are you going to believe? What do you think that you can achieve? As long as I'm by your side, says the Lord, I will now come and bring forth my bride, and it will be one that will be holy, and it will be humble, not ones, says the Lord, that are going to sin and they do stumble. But God said, I'm going to bring the greatest show the world has ever seen. And I, the Lord, will give you back your dream. So come to the city of St. Francis. Come to the city of San Francisco and watch and see what I will do, because it will be the key to the Golden Gate. I will open up, says the Lord, and make my people great. And this will be a time that I will now shine, and I will bring my people to the banqueting table to dine and taste and see that the Lord is good. This is a time not only to change Hollywood, but to change, says the Lord, the city by the bay, as long as you come together and you do pray. This is an hour that you will truly say, look what the Lord has done. Amen. See, he rhymed, Larry. He rhymed.
I love it.
Larry likes to rhyme.
Do that. That's amazing.
Well, I just hear what he's saying, and I just say it. So anyway, well, listen, guys, thank you for watching. Now is the time. It's going to be a great time, and please share this with other people. I can see they've tried to suppress even Louis Herms, who I interviewed last week, is running for governor too, and in California. When you talk about trafficking, they will shadow ban. They will do a lot of things to stop you. But if you can change the algorithms, everyone, by sharing this with 5 people, by writing comments, hitting the notification bell, that changes the algorithms and it upsets it. So please do that. Please get this be out. And then please hope to see you in San Francisco. This is going to be a very important, it's the 7th open the heaven. And the number 7 means completion. That's God created the world in 7 days. And afterward, it said he rested. So let's go and take back California for the kingdom. The greatest move of God the world has ever seen, I believe, now is coming to the planet. And it will be a September to remember. And by Christmas time, what did Kim Clement say? He's a prophetic voice that's been very...
You'll be happy. The whole financial reset will have occurred.
Yeah. I'll just finish with saying this. I used to have voice lessons by Bobby McPherson's mother a long time, and I heard that song on the radio the other day, like, Do 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 do. Don't worry. Do 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 do. Be happy. And it made me laugh. That song like did incredible. It's just a simple little song. Like, don't worry, be happy. God is going to make us happy. So thank you for watching. Be happy. Don't worry. It's in God's hands, but we have to take it and move and just not like, well, God's going to do it. No, we have to be the ones to listen to what he's telling us to do, take action and move. It's a movement, not a sentiment. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Larry, for coming on. We hope to see you
Very good. Bye-bye.
in Jesus' name. God bless. Bye.